This is CNN
Fighting
Philippines.
diplomatic protests and summoning a Chinese senior official, the government moves to oppose maritime violations in the West Philippine Sea. And exciting news for Directioners and fans. Former One Direction member Louis Tomlinson is holding his first solo concert in the country. We begin with the detection of more cases of the highly contagious Omicron subvariants. Health officials see no need to tighten restrictions just yet, even as infections begin to rise across the country. Caroline Bonkin reports.
Two locals in Western Visayas and three returning Filipinos from the U.S. are the latest additional Omicron subvariant BA.12.1 cases. These were found after the Philippine Genome Center and the Philippine Genome Center checked 31 COVID-19 positive samples for variants. All are fully vaccinated and from the same household.
Lahat ng mga kasong ito ay nakatapos na po ng kanilang home isolation at considered asymptomatic and recovered.
Their 7 close contacts have already finished isolation. In total, there are 22 BA.2.12.1 cases, 18 got the variant in the country. Meanwhile, Philippines' first BA.4 case already recovered, a returning Filipino from Qatar who traveled to South Africa. Health authorities tracked 33 co-passengers and are checking their health status. They're also checking the new batch of tourists who tested positive for COVID-19 in Palawan. This includes 14 foreign tourists and 2 local crew who went to Tubataha Reef in mid-May. 6 had mild symptoms, the rest asymptomatic. All but 1 are fully vaccinated. Experts say BA.4 and BA.2.12.1 are more transmissible than the original Omicron. DOH Technical Advisory Group member Edsel Salvania says there's no need to reinstate testing requirements for local travelers.
These cases, especially among those who are vaccinated, are asymptomatic or mild. And so they are manageable. Hindi naman napupuno yung ICUs. So this is really part of going towards the shift to endemicity, being able to live with the virus. We have our medications. We have our prevention measures.
The government recently exempted international travelers aged 18 years and up from pre-departure COVID test if they are boosted. Also exempted are the fully vaccinated aged 12 to 17 and children 11 years old and below if accompanied by fully vaccinated parents or guardians. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
13 out of 17 regions now have higher COVID-19 cases than the past 2 weeks, but the health department says this is not affecting the healthcare system. Well, the state-run health insurer is raising alarm bells on what it calls downcasing of COVID-19 cases. PhilHealth says it has received reports of hospitals declaring coronavirus patients as less severe than their actual condition. It says these may be out of concern that the health insurer will not pay the right amount of claims.
Marami kami naririnig na ganun. Nung unang panahon na Mr. Chair, ang tawag niyan upcasing, yung simple, ginagawang grabe. So we were able to, ngayon daw bago na downcasing naman. Yung grabe, ginagawang simple. In this case, apektado yung kliyente, ay yung member ng PhilHealth. Kasi instead of the hospital giving him a higher benefit, sa takot niya na hindi na mabayaran at palagi kami ng slash, binibigay yung lower. So again, we are asking every Filipino na experience ng ganyan to let us know so that we can file the necessary or call the attention of the facility.
PhilHealth advises patients to approach its outposts or desks at hospitals to check if their benefits have been assessed. Broadcaster Erwin Tulfo and all other incoming cabinet officials will officially buckle down to work in a month's time. But this early, Tulfo is saying he will step down from office if he fails to deliver on his promises within a certain period. Tulfo will be Social Welfare Secretary under the Marcos administration. Speaking to CNN Philippines, Tulfo gave himself a deadline of 6 months to 1 year to introduce reforms in the agency.
please give me 6 months to 1 year to deliver. Pag hindi ako nakadeliver, hindi ko na ibigay o natupad yung mga sinabi ko na ayuda in less than 24 hours after calamity, after sunog, then I will step down. Just have to remind me, Mr. Tulfo, May 31, 2022, sabi mo bababa ka pag hindi ka nakadeliver. So after 1 year, sa May 31, 2023, if I haven't delivered and kept my promise, then I will step down, I promise.
Among his proposed reforms, setting up a quick response team for the immediate distribution of aid during disasters and updating the master list of beneficiaries for the Social Amelioration Program. Tulfo also promises to be a secretary on the ground, even if that would involve sleeping in evacuation centers. Erwin Tulfo is not the only Tulfo in government. His elder brother is Senator-elect Raffy Tulfo, whose wife Jocelyn represents ACT CIS party list in Congress, with son Ralph for Quezon City's 2nd District. Liloan, Cebu Mayor Cristina Frasco accepts President-elect Bongbong Marcos' offer to be the next tourism secretary. In a statement, Frasco says she is, quote, eager to support Marcos's vision to revitalize tourism so it may significantly propel the Philippines' post-pandemic economic growth, unquote. Frasco also cited her experience as a mayor in Cebu province, where tourism is a major economic driver. Frasco also thanked Vice President-elect Sara Duterte, whom she served as spokesperson, as well as her family and constituents for their support. Meanwhile, the Budget Department welcomes the choice of Bangko Sentral Assistant Governor Amena Pangandaman as incoming secretary. The agency says it is ready to work with her to ensure a smooth and orderly turnover of leadership. It believes, quote, reforms will be introduced and sustained to get the country through the transition period of post-pandemic recovery, growth and sustainability, unquote. Well, let's take a look again at how the Marcos cabinet is shaping up. As of May 30, there are so far 17 appointees, including his running mate and now Vice President-elect Sara Duterte, who will take the helm of the Education Department. Also serving under the administration, some of his allies, including spokesperson Vic Rodriguez, who will be his executive secretary, and campaign manager Benjamin Abalos, who will head the Interior Department, as well as experts and former officials of past and current administrations. But we're still waiting for Marcos's picks for other agencies, including the Departments of Agriculture, Energy, Environment, Foreign Affairs, Health, Defense, Transportation, and Science and Technology. Incoming Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles says they will announce more nominations in the coming days. Senator Cynthia Villar supposedly offered to share the Senate presidency with her colleague Mig Zubiri. That claim coming from Senator Bato de la Rosa. Zubiri earlier said colleagues who want him to become the Senate president reject the idea of term sharing.
Open naman si Senator Cynthia ng term sharing. In fact, nag-offer siya noon pa.
Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos says her brother, President-elect Bongbong Marcos, is unlikely to endorse anyone. Zubiri earlier said Marcos sought help from him and House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez to craft a legislative agenda.
Oh, it's most unlikely and quite improper. As you're well aware, there's a separation of the three branches of government. Hindi po tayo nanghihimasok sa executive. Ang executive hindi papakialaman ng judiciary and so on and so forth. Kasi hindi naman siya tama, di ba?
But Senator Marcos says she is not privy to that meeting. Coming up on Newsnight, another series of incidents in the West Philippine Sea prompts Manila to take new diplomatic actions against Beijing. And a former member of One Direction adds to the long list of international acts staging a concert in Manila. Details right here on CNN Philippines.
Land Bank has always believed that in this country, we have to dream big. And so we learn to build something
You're watching Newsnight. The government is taking diplomatic action yet again after a series of maneuverings by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel in the West Philippine Sea. Tristan Nadal reports a senior Chinese official was summoned to protest the incident.
The Foreign Affairs Department assures the public that it is taking appropriate actions for violations of Philippine maritime rights in the West Philippine Sea. The statement comes after Washington-based Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative recorded 3 incidents in the recent months involving the alleged intimidation or interference of Chinese Coast Guard ships with Philippine and Taiwanese research vessels in our territory. The AMTI said on March 23 a Chinese Coast Guard ship shadowed the Taiwan research vessel Legend in Babuyan Islands while the vessel was conducting hydrographic surveys. The activity was in partnership with researchers from the University of the Philippines. On April 6, both Taiwan and the Philippines sent their Coast Guard vessels to protect Legend. The game of cat and mouse ended on April 9. In a statement, the DFA said that it has summoned a senior Chinese official from the embassy on April 13th to protest the incident. In the same report, a Chinese vessel followed 2 survey ships commissioned by local oil company PXP Energy in Reed Bank. The DFA says it is now reviewing the Reed Bank incident for possible diplomatic actions. Few weeks after the Reed Bank encounter, the Chinese Coast Guard and 2 militia ships interfered with Philippine research activity by MV DA-BFAR at Ayungin Shoal. The DFA says it has also lodged diplomatic protests over the encounter. Despite the incident, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources or BFAR remains unfazed and vows to continue research activities in the area.
Maliban dun sa research and study, ay nandun siya para makita ng ating mga mangingisda na sila ay naaalagaan.
Based on the actions of the Chinese vessel and what they were communicating to our vessels, they were essentially attempting to enforce Chinese law. They are clearly preventing us from conducting oil exploration.
An expert says the Chinese activities in disputed areas will not stop anytime soon. The challenge now is for the incoming administration to be more assertive when it comes to the West Philippine Sea.
For the next administration, it is clear that this is not acceptable. It should not be seen as the administration that finally gives them up. And it must therefore face China, of course, still in a peaceful manner, but insist on its legal rights and entitlements under international law.
In a previous interview, President-elect Bongbong Marcos said that the Philippines should have a firm voice in upholding the arbitral ruling. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
The Chinese embassy has yet to comment on the matter. Developments in an explosion in a bus terminal in Isabela City, Basilan, Monday night. Authorities looking at extortion as the possible motive behind the blast that injured 2 people. Armed Forces Western Mindanao Command spokesperson Major Andrew Linao says they have yet to identify the group behind the bombing. Meanwhile, authorities clarify that a separate explosion at a fast food chain, also in Isabela City, was caused by faulty electrical wiring. Authorities expanding the scope of the search and rescue for the 7 fishermen still missing in Palawan. On Saturday, a fishing vessel collided with cargo ship MV Happy Hero off the island of Macaranaw. 13 of 20 fishermen were rescued. Coast Guard says another ship has been sent to help in the rescue efforts. He adds the Coast Guard will not shift to retrieval operations just yet.
So far, in-expand na rin yung search area. Umabot na ito sa 500 square nautical miles at magpapatuloy tayo at hindi pa natin siya i-determinate at hopefully magkaroon pa ito ng magandang resulta. Ang pang-challenge lang talaga kung paano hahanapin tsaka yung direction kung saan sila banda natangay kasi mayroon ding possibility based dun sa accounts ng mga survivors na baka kasamang lumubog ng fishing boat.
The fishing vessel's company is now in talks with representatives of the MV Happy Hero. In other news, Senate Electoral Reforms Chairperson Amy Marcos wants sanctions against service providers in case vote counting machines malfunction in the next automated polls in 2025. In a committee hearing, officials of the Commission on Elections said more than 1,000 VCMs and 600 SD cards had to be replaced last May 9. All these election materials were from Smartmatic. Marcos is also looking at possible sanctions against airing poll workers after defective vote counting machines forced voters to leave their filled-in ballots with members of the Electoral Board.
Should we categorize as election offenses failing to require the voter to execute a waiver, failure to properly brief the voter, coercing or forcing the voter in some way to simply leave his filled-in ballot?
That can be included as one of the election offenses.
Only 4 out of 260 national candidates have submitted their campaign spending reports before the COMELEC so far. COMELEC says only senatorial candidate Guillermo Eleazar and 3 party lists have turned in their Statement of Contributions and Expenditures, or SOSE. The SOSE is due on June 8, 30 days after Election Day. Through the spending report, COMELEC can monitor campaign overspending and whether candidates receive funds from foreigners or prohibited industries such as public utilities and banks. Winning bets who are unable to file their sources cannot assume office, while overspending candidates will be disqualified. World updates now. Last week's deadly school shooting is fueling debates on gun control in the United States. U.S. President Joe Biden admits he can only do so much. But as CNN correspondent MJ Lee tells us, Biden is hopeful lawmakers will finally do something to combat gun violence.
We can never repay the sacrifice, but we will never stop trying.
President Biden marking Memorial Day with a visit to Arlington National Cemetery, honoring the American men and women killed while serving in the U.S. military.
Freedom is worth the sacrifice. Democracy is not perfect, but it's worth fighting for. If necessary, worth dying for.
The solemn commemoration coming as the country continues to grieve the horrific mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, that left 19 children and 2 adults dead. Those killings reigniting the fraught national debate on gun control and putting new pressure on the president and lawmakers in Washington alike to take meaningful action.
I know that it makes no sense to be able to purchase something that can fire up to 300 rounds. The Second Amendment was never absolute.
The president signaling a hint of optimism about some of his GOP colleagues in Congress.
I think things have gotten so bad that everybody's getting more rational about it. At least that's my hope and prayer. I consider McConnell a rational Republican, and Cornyn is as well. I think there's a recognition on their part that we can't continue like this.
But Biden also indicating that his own hands are largely tied when it comes to major actions pushed by gun reform advocates.
I can't outlaw a weapon. I can't, change the background checks. I can't do that.
Over the weekend, the president and the first lady traveling to Uvalde to console a traumatized and broken community. As he left church, Biden confronted with anguished onlookers. Back in Washington, some Democratic lawmakers also sounding cautiously optimistic.
There are more Republicans interested in talking about finding a path forward this time than I have ever seen since Sandy Hook. We're talking about red flag laws. We're talking about strengthening and expanding the background check system.
While many Republicans appear eager to focus on strengthening school security systems.
The things that would have the most immediate and succinct effect and tangible effect on these things, and that's actual security at a school.
The European Union has agreed on a partial ban on Russian oil imports. The new package of sanctions will cover upwards of 2/3 of oil imports from Russia. This cuts a, quote, huge source of financing for Moscow's war machine. The EU says it will ban 3 more Russian state-owned broadcasters and penalize individuals responsible for war crimes in Ukraine. The package will also remove Russia's largest bank from the global payment system, SWIFT. Back here at home, transport groups make an appeal to commuters as costly fuel forces jeepney drivers to skip their trips. Groups clarify there were no transport strikes. They admit, though, a number of drivers ended up canceling trips because of expensive diesel. Just today, per liter diesel prices are up by 1 peso and 20 centavos.
Humihingi din po kami ng pangunawa sa ating mga mahal na mananakay. Kayo po yung unang-unang binibigyan namin ng serbisyo publiko. pangalawa na lamang po yung aming pagkakakitaan. Pero po kung wala rin ho kaming maiuwi sa aming pamilya o wala rin ho kaming maikargang diesel, papaano nga ho kami makakapagserbisyo sa inyo ng tama at maayos?
Transport groups continue to hope for excise tax cuts and a minimum fare hike. As they call for faster fuel subsidy distribution, they're also arranging a dialogue with President-elect Bongbong Marcos. Straight ahead on Newsnight, a world-famous landmark pays tribute to Britain's Queen Elizabeth II. Plus, pole vault sensation EJ Obiena leaps for the top prize once again, this time in Italy. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Exodo, Kabanata 18, versikulo 21. Ngunit pumili ka ng mga tao.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. A world-famous landmark pays tribute to Britain's Queen Elizabeth II in honor of her Platinum Jubilee, or her 70th year on the throne. Projected onto the iconic Stonehenge are photographs of the Queen, each from a different decade during her reign. The England Monument was built around 2500 BC, but questions on its purpose remain unanswered. Well, speaking of landmarks, pole vault sensation EJ Obiena leaps for the top prize once again, this time in front of the Basilica of Santa Maria de Collemaggio in L'Aquila, Italy. Obiena bagged gold by clearing 5.85 meters, exceeding his 5.46-meter pole vault performance in the Southeast Asian Games. In football, Stephen Schrock was disappointed by his exclusion from the Philippine Azkals lineup in the final round of the 2023 AFC Asian Cup qualifiers. Schrock told CNN Philippine Sports Desk he thinks head coach Thomas Dooley still holds a grudge against him because of his 2014 Facebook post where he said he would not play in a team with Dooley as coach.
I reached out to him asking for a sit-down to clear this up like adults, and yeah, he refused. I think we have a common goal, which is bigger than a personal pride, bigger than a personal ego. And unfortunately, I got denied this opportunity. I make myself available if ever there is a need and ever there is a demand. I'm always here for the country. I'm always trying to serve.
In an interview with CNN Philippines yesterday, Dooley said the decision was based on Chiroc's performance and not because of personal issues. Pageant fans, get ready. Only 5 days to go until someone takes the coveted Miss World Philippines 2022 crown. 36 beauties will compete at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay. 3 other major titles are at stake: Miss Supranational Philippines, Miss Eco Philippines, and Reina Hispano-Americana Filipinas. Watch it as it happens live on Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on CNN Philippines. Performing on the Manila concert stage soon is British singer Louis Tomlinson. The former One Direction member is holding his first solo live show in the country on July 16th at the New Frontier Theatre in Quezon City. Tickets selling begins on June 5. The excitement doesn't stop there, though, with more international artists set to rock out Filipino audiences from 2022 to 2023. Here are some of those much-awaited concerts, including All Time Low on August 15th, Justin Bieber on October 29th, and Westlife on February 20th next year. More music news, including a U.S. tour that's bound to bring back a Disney song you probably just managed to get out of your head. Here's CNN's David Daniel with tonight's Hollywood Minute.
We don't talk about Bruno, no.
Prepare for Encanto, the sing-along film concert. The event features the movie and a live on-stage band leading the audience in all the popular songs from the soundtrack. The 32-city tour begins July 18th in Ridgefield, Washington. Tickets and more info at disneyconcerts.com/Encanto.
We're invisible. We're pissed off. We're bored. So maybe that should be our image.
With the right guidance, you could change the world.
And they did. Pistol is a 6-episode limited series about the Sex Pistols, the English punk rock band that helped spark the UK's punk movement. Pistol premieres today on Hulu. Kate Bush fans, old and new, are running up that hill. The English singer-songwriter's 1985 single is #1 on the iTunes chart after it played a significant role in the season 4 premiere episode of Netflix's Stranger Things. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. and on Politics as usual at 8:30. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by...
So many questions about what is the federal government doing. Do you get the...
Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. DX General Santos. DX General Santos. Una sa balita. Musika ug kalingawan. Mas tulong pinalakas. Radyo.
Gusto mo bang matuto sa pag-aagrikultura, anumang oras at kahit nasaan ka mang lugar? Heto pa, sa sarili mong paraan kung gaano kabilis o kabagal bago mo ito matapos? Sagot ka ng Agricultural Training Institute Region 12. Ngayon, pwede ka nang matuto sa pamamagitan ng e-learning at mag-enjoy sa higit 70 na online courses ng ATI. Mag-aral at matuto sa iba't ibang topiko tulad ng agriculture, fisheries at social technology sa pamamaraan ng modules, video clips at mini tutorial online. May dagdag kaalaman ka na, may e-certificate ka pang matatanggap. Oo, libre ito. Kaya mag-register ka na at maging isang e-learner. Bisitahin lang ang kanilang website sa www.e-extension.gov.ph o di kaya ay i-text sila sa 0920-946-2474. Tara, mag-ATI certified e-learner ka na. Ang mensaheng ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Agricultural Training Institute Region 12 at ng himpilang ito.
Uy, Maring Lorna,
Totoo ba yung nakita ko sa Facebook ni Maring Judith? Nag-aaral siya ulit kung kailan nagkakaedad na?
Oo, Maring Tess. Totoo. Sa katunayan, sabay kaming nag-enroll sa FFS at magkaklase kami ni Maring Judith.
Ha? Oh? FFS?
Yes, Mare. FFS, Farmers Field School. Programa ito ng gobyerno sa ilalim ng Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund o RCEF Extension Program sa pamamagitan ng TESDA, ATI at farm schools. Ginawa ito para tulungan tayong mga magsasaka na mas mapataas ang ating ani at kita sa pamamagitan ng mga pagsasanay.
Talaga ba? Magkano naman yan, Maring Lorna?
Maring Tess, libre ito.
Ano? Libre?
Oo, libre. Nagbibigay ng scholarship ang TESDA para sa mga magsasaka na nakalista sa RSBSA. May 17 sessions ang FFS, Mare, at isang beses lang sa isang linggo kami nagkikita. Ang dami kong natututunan at lumalawak pa ang aking kaalaman sa pagpapalay.
Talaga ba? Tell me more, Maring Lorna.
Bukod sa rice production, matututo ka rin sa farm mechanization at seed certification, Mare, lalo na kung gusto mong maging isang certified seed grower.
Maring Lorna, isali mo naman ako dyan. Gusto ko niyan.
Oh, Jiva, tama na yung pag-Facebook, Maring Tess. Magtungo ka na sa TESDA Provincial Office o sa pinakamalapit na farm school dito sa atin. Oh, ano pang hinihintay mo?
Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, mag-text sa Farmers Contact Center sa numero 0920-946-2474. Sa RCEF, mataas na ani at kita, kayang-kaya! Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund at ATI Region 12.
Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. DX General Santos. DX General Santos. Una sa balita. Una sa balita. Musika ug kalingawan. Mas tulong pinalakas. Radyo.
This is CNN Philippines.
Efficient internet has become key in our lives, especially amid the pandemic. From communicating with loved ones to research and doing business and even ordering food and goods, we do it all online. Yet access and connectivity woes continue to plague us. A party list is pushing for better internet as it vies for a seat in the next Congress. Joining us now for this up-close segment is Sam Buenviaje. He is the second nominee and spokesperson of Walang Iwanan sa Free Internet or Wi-Fi Party List. Good morning, Sam. Thank you for joining us here on New Day. Now, could you please tell us what is the status of your campaign with just a few days to go before Election Day?
It is a very tough campaign since we are new in the party list. We are going around different localities and barangays to deliver our message. Last Sunday, we had our motorcade in Pasig and we really made some noise. Alam niyo naman ng mga Pilipino kapag nakakatinig ng parada, talagang lumalabas sila sa kanilang mga bahay para makita ito. So maganda naman naging reception nila sa amin. They are shouting and saying that they fully support our party list at talagang nakakataba ito ng puso.
All right, so maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the challenges of internet connectivity in the country. Isa na ba tayo sa ranking within the Asia-Pacific region? There are some recent studies showing that we had a bit of an improvement in mobile internet ranking. But for you, how would you describe the situation?
From our perspective, if you want a good internet connection, you have to pay the premium. Not all can afford those premiums and not all has an access to internet connection. So our party list is focusing in the 5 pillars of internet. This is the barometer of digital happiness. Kapag naging maganda ito, mapapaangat natin ang kabuhayan ng mga Pilipino. So number 1 is yung affordability and accessibility. As I've said earlier, not all can afford the premiums to pay the internet connections and not all has the access for the internet. Number 2 is the quality. Before, nasa number 88 tayo sa broadband. But now, siguro nasa number 63 na tayo. Pero mababa pa din ito. Third is the electronic infrastructure. Telcos are having hard time in the installation of fiber optics due to strict requirements of LGU. hayaan natin yung mga telco siguro na makapaglatag ng kanilang infrastructure. Alisin natin ang mahigpit na requirements lalo na sa pag-apply nila ng mga permit sa LGU. Ito yung tutulungan namin talaga sila doon. Doon naman sa mga hindi marating na lugar ng telcos, ito yung kailangan natin i-focus. Ito yung mga unserved and underserved. Meron tayong tinatawag na EO127. Naglalayon ito na palawakin na magiging source ng very small aperture terminal or VSAT na hindi na kailangan kumuha ng prangkisa para makapag-servisyo sa ating mga komunidad. Ito yung community via satellite, high speed for remote population. Ito yung meron kang teleport sa baba, sa lupa, tapos kukuha ka ng signal galing sa satellite, ibabato ito sa mga VSAT, meron kang IP modem, may server ito, tapos makakapagtayo ka ng mga base station. Doon sa base station, meron kang mga Wi-Fi access point na magbabato sa mga community, sa mga bahay-bahay, doon sa mga baryo, maliit na munisipyo, o hindi natin kailangan ng mga cell towers para makabitan ng fiber optics.
So basically, there's no excuse to have areas within the country that don't have internet. I know that your group is calling for a digitized and smart Philippines. And in order to achieve this, do you think we need more providers or we just need better providers?
I think we need more providers kasi kulang ang mga cell towers natin, and yung mga far reach na mga isla ng Pilipinas, wala talaga silang access sa internet. Wala silang mga cell towers. Kaya naman, mas maganda magkaroon ng mga satellites, kagaya ng sinusulungan ng EO127. Babantayan natin sila.
Right. So if ever your party list does get elected into Congress, Sam, ano ba yung mga ibang advocacies na ipopush nyo sa Congress?
So we have been pushing since day one of the campaign that our number one priority is to institutionalize the satellite-based internet connectivity in unserved and underserved areas in country using the VSAT and BGAN technologies. Our call must have been reached the campaign team of Senator Gatchalian, so is now just recently proposing the enactment of satellite-based internet connectivity in school. Number two, we will enact a law that will streamline the process and requirements in the setting up of towers and fiber optics to help telcos expedite and lay out countrywide internet coverage, which have been hampered by too much red tapes.
All right, Sam, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. That was Sam Buenviaje from the Wi-Fi Party List.
Preskong gulay, prutas, karne at seafoods. Lahat ng yan, nasa KCC Supermarket. Ang wais na misis sa KCC Supermarket lang namimili. KCC, nakabarato.
This is CNN Philippines.
A party list group continues to push for reforms in the education system. One Ang Edukasyon Party List is one of the groups seeking a seat in Congress. Joining us now in the program is its first... One Ang Edukasyon is eyeing a return to Congress. It is said to be one of the most productive party list groups in the 17th Congress, having authored hundreds of bills and resolutions. And right now, ano po yung nakikita ninyong problema or concerns in the education sector? It is one of the sectors badly hit by the COVID pandemic.
Thank you for pointing out that, Mai. In fact, it's 728 bills and resolutions. And we take pride in the fact that we are one of the most productive party lists in the history of Philippine Congress with that record of 728 bills and resolutions. If ever the Filipino people trust us that we will be able to return to Congress, we will have two major goals. Number one is to work for the continuance of the laws that we have worked for in the 17th Congress, namely the free college education law. Because, one of the problems of that law is that there is a problem of funding on a yearly basis. If we get elected, we will assure and we will make best efforts to ensure that this law would have continuous funding. The other thing is the Free Wi-Fi in Public Places Act. We'd like to refine it in the post-pandemic era because now everything has gone online, and we would like to refine the glitches of this law.
Okay, I'd like to talk about your priority legislation if elected in the 19th Congress. Kasi especially with this pandemic, we are seeing a so-called lost generation of learners. How do you plan to address this?
That is very correct because of the pandemic, there is a loss in quality as proven by international assessments. There's also loss in access. And in fact, a joke is going around. In fact, it's validated by reality that there's also loss in sanity among the stakeholders, not only among the parents, but also among the students. So we'd like to address the pandemic and post-pandemic issues in education.
Gusto ko yung sinabi nyo, loss in sanity. Lahat po siguro ng mga magulang ay naranasan ito dahil doon sa online classes. Ano po yung ibang programa pa po na you push for in the 19th Congress? Kasama po ba yung may iba pa bang benefits for the teachers that you push for and also maybe a salary increase?
Definitely, Mai. In the 17th Congress, we're one of the most ardent advocates for for increase in teacher salaries. And one aspect of looking at it is to look at the conditions. We would like to revise the Continuing Professional Development Act of 2016 because up to now, they continue to assess fees for attendance in teacher seminars, also in other professional seminars. We'd like the government to shoulder that. And also, we'd like to strengthen textbook education because we believe that, especially during the pandemic, skills are very important. We'd like the government to give more scholarships on a regional basis so that many students, outside school youths, in particular, will be given a chance to improve their lives.
Okay, well, what are the plans in the final stretch of the campaign period?
Embedded in our campaign, Mai, is our continuous campaign for the realization that education is and will always be an integral part of any development planning, whether it's for yourself, the family, the community, in the country. And we always believe that ang tunay na pag-asa ay nasa edukasyon. So we'd like to appeal to all the voters that come May 9, 2022, let us vote for the education of our children. Let us vote for development. Let us vote for One ang Edukasyon Party List, number 150 sa balota.
Thank you for your time this morning, Bong Belaro from One ang Edukasyon Party List.
Philippines Network Radio.